Everyone in Riverdale knew Adrian only married me to get back at Blair, the perfect girl who'd dumped him. The second her plane lifted off for whatever art history program she'd milked for clout, he dragged me, someone he'd met 5 minutes earlier at a boring set-up lunch, straight to City Hall. The chatty wives of Riverdale swore the minute Blair flew back with her diploma, Adrian would kick me to the curb. I refused to believe gossip, so I paid a small fortune for a detective. Turns out the rumor was planted by Saint Blair herself, the girl who never competes. My molars ached from clenching. Did they really think I was disposable cannon fodder in their little love war? If Blair wanted to force a divorce by playing the disappearing act, fine. Two could play the grab-and-steal game. After my 99th steamy clip with Adrian sent Blair sprinting for the exit in tears, Adrian suddenly went berserk, offering a 6-figure reward for her precious moonstone pendant. The instant I saw the photo in the post, my blood froze. That necklace was the only thing my mother had left me. 10 years ago I'd pressed it into the hand of the depressed boy crouched on the rooftop. Before we continue, hit subscribe and drop a comment telling us where you're tuning in from. The words $1 million reward for lost love token on the screen stung my eyes so badly they watered. It wasn't Blair's romantic keepsake. It was my dead mother's last fragment. She loved my father her whole life and got betrayal in return. When the cancer ate her bones she refused expensive pain meds, clutching that pendant and crying until she retched. With her final strength she pressed it into my palm. Serena, no one ever truly loved me, and I never learned how to love you right. When you find the person you really love, give him this. It will bless you to be cherished. I didn't believe in love, but 10 years ago I still handed it to the boy willing to jump. Back then Adrian wanted to die. I talked my voice cracked, and finally he stepped down. I stuffed the moonstone into his hand. This is my most precious thing. If you stay alive, you'll be paying me back. For the first time light flickered in his eyes. With this, you'll stay with me forever, right? I nodded. Yet I knew he was only a passerby in my life. 3 days later I moved to Riverdale proper. We lost all contact. Fate, the cosmic comedian, still pushed me down the aisle with him. Watching dead leaves swirl outside the window, I exhaled. Blair had fled, Adrian would never let that slide. Footsteps echoed on the balcony. I swiped fast, swapping to some brain-numbing cat video. Serena. I turned. Adrian strode in, gray cashmere coat flaring. I had to admit the man could model cologne ads, taller, sharper, hotter than any rent-a-gigolo I'd ever hired. But he'd clearly come to avenge his wounded princess. Have you no shame? Posting that filth? By filth he meant the half-drunk clips I secretly recorded, times he actually reached for me. I lifted a shoulder, all innocence. Last I checked we're legally married, so what? Is Blair so virtuous? Coming after another woman's husband? His face darkened another shade. Push again and we're done. I'll file tomorrow. When it comes to verbal knife fights, Adrian always loses. I sprang up, voice dripping honeyed poison. Spare me the divorce threat. Blair hopped on a plane, because of me? Please. She dumped you for her shiny future without even giving you a chance to beg. Stop lying to yourself. If she truly loved you, a few snide texts from me could never chase her off. His jaw clenched. I kept drilling. Moral high ground can't stand being the other woman, can she? Admitting she pines for a married man would ruin her halo. Insane, he hissed, temple veins jumping. He spun on his heel and stormed out. Perfect. I'd pissed him off too. The second he disappeared I grabbed the keys to his $1 million Aston and gunned toward downtown. Total victory. Deserved retail therapy. Splendid. At the checkout I discovered every card had been killed, Adrian's doing. I snorted. Did he think freezing plastic could chain me? I rang my father. He answered roaring. Keep this up and when Adrian finally walks, I'll disown you. Half our biggest clients came through him. If those contracts vanish, we're ruined. His yelling rattled my eardrum. Lose the Caldwell name and I'll expose you as the crazy bitch you are. Everyone will know you're cracked in the head. If you want private jets and champagne, crawl back and please Adrian. Wire money. I cut him off, hung up, and, boom, 7 figures landed in my account before 3 minutes passed. I stared at the cold numbers, feeling nothing. I'd accepted it long ago. My father loves only himself and profit. He'd once let my mother die to save hospital fees. His sudden affection for me was nothing more than Caldwell stock value. Nothing more. Another sigh slipped out as I stared at the mountain of glossy shopping bags. Then I laughed at myself. What's to sigh about? Human hearts slip away no matter how tight you grip. Luxury behaves, pay the price, it stays, obedient and exclusively yours. I'd barely stepped out of the boutique when I smacked straight into Blair. Hadn't my taunts driven her onto a midnight flight? Turned out she'd staged a melodramatic exit to milk Adrian's pity. She froze when she spotted me. I raised a brow. Thought you were off healing your poor heart, why the encore? Panic flickered across her face before she rearranged it into cool confidence. I realized that what Adrian and I share is between us. An outsider can't come between. Outsider? In her world, the legally wedded Caldwell is a paper placeholder, while the saintly first love deserves the throne. I looked her up and down, then changed tack. You back because you saw Adrian's reward post? You stormed off but made sure to steal the necklace, petty. I widened my eyes. Wait, you're here for the 100 grand fin. Ders fee? Crimson flooded her cheeks. Ridiculous. I'm not money crazy like you. I smiled. I already knew she hadn't taken it. Because the pendant was already. Before she could sputter another excuse, Adrian appeared. Seeing Blair's watery eyes, he shoved me aside without asking. I staggered, 12-centimeter heels twisting, bag scattering. Still, his voice rang ice cold and commanding. Serena, apologize. When I stayed silent, he drew the black titanium card from his wallet, tone suddenly gentle. Blair, if you're upset, spend whatever you want, your happiness costs nothing. Blair fluttered her hands, voice quavering. I never wanted your money, don't treat me like a gold digger. Their every syllable underlined that only I'm the vulgar mercenary. So be it. I've spent plenty of Adrian's cash, always with his tacit nod. But happiness I buy myself, I don't owe anyone receipts. Pain throbbed through my ankle as I straightened, snatched the black card from his fingers. Spending a married man's money without earning it? Tacky. I sauntered off, hips swaying, leaving their matching scowls behind. Only when I was sure they couldn't see did I clutch my swelling foot and hiss. I swallowed the sour lump in my throat, slid into the Aston, and forced a grin. Smile, Serena. I still don't know what tale Blair spun to convince Adrian she was the girl who saved him on the rooftop years ago. I used to wonder why his study safe guarded no stocks, no deeds, only a small velvet box. I never saw its contents but guessed they were relics of the first woman who broke him. When he called that press conference and revealed the moonstone, I finally understood. Inside the box lay the necklace I gave the suicidal boy 10 years ago. Pity. The 100 grand reward belongs to me now. Back then he'd chased Blair halfway across town, quarreled, and lost it. I happened to be walking home and literally stumbled over the pendant. Life had already taught me love is a sucker's game. If love were mighty, my mother would have lived. Money or love, Dad chose cash without blinking. Mom followed him at 17 and bet on the wrong horse. He wasn't cruel to me, yet clients who signed checks mattered more than the woman who bore his child. Once her illness threatened the company's cash flow, he balked. Hope crushed, she slid into depression and refused treatment. She died, I survived, life marched on. Later Dad surfed a market wave and exploded his net worth. Job hunt panic? He waved a hand and shipped me overseas. When I balked at his arranged dates he slapped me so hard my ears rang. Fine, whatever. Meeting Adrian, every curse I'd sent Dad flipped into gratitude. Gorgeous, sole heir to Caldwell, love or not, the bargain favored me. A marriage without feelings, I told myself, lasts longer. When did it change? I started waiting for Adrian's car in the driveway, for the key turning in the lock. I had to admit, I'd kind of fallen for him. Fate is a vicious screenwriter. Now I understand how even Adrian's cold heart can clutch one obsession and never let go. He used to think that stranger had given him the courage to go on living. I'm kind of curious what he'll do when he learns the truth. After I pulled myself together, I beelined to the restaurant and treated myself to a feast. The second I walked back through the door, the fragile calm I'd rebuilt shattered. Stop, stop, stop. Blair was glued to Adrian's chest, tiny and tear-streaked, playing the damsel in distress. What scene is this, audition for a soap opera? When she saw me, she jerked away from him in fake panic, but not before flipping her wrist so the rock on her ring finger caught the light. Adrian says he owes me for all those years. I deserve the very best the world can offer. Her gaze flicked to the chip of a diamond on my hand, contempt practically dripping. That ring of yours, take it off before people think Adrian's shortchanging you and embarrassing the Caldwell name. I let out a short, mocking laugh. Gifts of bags and jewelry, she played holier than thou and refused. The moment it's a diamond she folds? Some untouchable white moonlight she is. Not fighting for the Caldwell title, sure I'll bow out on my own. Not competing, because she believes her halo is bulletproof? Watching the smug smile she couldn't hide, I yanked the tiny ring off my finger and tossed it to the floor. But I'm not 15, I'm not storming out in a huff. As long as I'm still Adrian's wife, this house is mine. With that, I spun into the bedroom, stuffed every last pair of his boxers and socks into a suitcase, zipped it, and wheeled it back out. I parked the case right in front of him. Adrian raised an eyebrow, eyes glittering with scorn. Running away in a tantrum? Walk out that door and don't bother coming back. I snorted, shoved the suitcase toward him. Who's leaving? I'm kicking you out. You and that woman, both of you are eyesores. Adrian's fingers clamped around my wrist so hard I thought the bones would crack. Serena, know your place, he hissed, ignoring how my face twisted in pain. This house belongs to Caldwell. If anyone rolls, it's you. I tried to jerk free, but a knife turned in my stomach. The doctor warned me stress would shred my ulcer. Blair fluttered over and tugged Adrian's sleeve. Adrian, don't be so scary. Her tone carried a wink. What if Serena's secretly recording again? People might think I'm bullying her. Adrian flung me off like I was toxic. Pull another sleazy stunt and I'll show you what a real internet massacre feels like. Sweat beaded on my forehead. I pressed both hands to my belly and stayed doubled over. He watched me wilt and only sneered, then looped an arm around Blair and headed for the door. Blair can't handle stress right now. Dragging the suitcase, he didn't even look back. I booked the presidential suite, anything's better than sharing a roof with a jinx. I wouldn't miss this place. As they passed, Blair aimed a heel onto the back of my ha. Andy. Serena, with acting skills like that you should try Hollywood instead of burning Adrian's money like some waste of space. Night fell, the stabbing in my gut turned vicious. Only then did I realize, I'd let those two wind me so tight I hadn't swallowed a single bite all day. I have stomach disease, the severe kind. When I was little dad was always gone and mom couldn't even be bothered to stay alive, let alone slip me lunch money. I lived on one meal, no meal, my stomach eroded years ago. I fished out the pills, swallowed two, but the burn only flared hotter. No choice, I hailed a cab to the ER. I'm used to fixing everything alone. I don't need anyone, me, myself, that's enough. The nurse started in 4, but the beds were full, so I sat in the corridor dripping, eyelids drooping. Just as I was drifting, a muffled sob slithered into my ear. Of course, the universe has a sense of humor. The treatment room door stood ajar, the corridor was dead quiet, and the crying scraped my nerves raw. Adrian, I won't terminate this baby. Baby? I snapped awake. They'd cooked up a child behind my back? I held my breath, straining to hear. I don't have the strength to love anyone else. Even if you leave me one day, at least the baby will stay. The doctor chimed in, Blair's constitution is unique, an abortion could make future pregnancy impossible. So the kid isn't his. Yet the next second rage reignited. No wonder Adrian shielded her, fussed that she stay calm, he knew she was pregnant, and still. My skull filled with static, then Adrian's voice clubbed me again. Blair, I won't force you. If you want to keep it, I'll support both of you for life. How strange. I shouldn't care, this is their circus, not mine. I certainly shouldn't love him, I crossed a line I had no right to cross. But hearing how much he cares, my eyes stung anyway. Turns out when you love someone to the max, rules cease to exist, even if another man's child is nesting inside her, he'll still STE. Pee up and raise it. Tears blurred the hallway. I swiped them away and looked up, straight into Adrian's stunned gaze. He froze. Serena, you. I lifted my hand, for a needle glinting. I'm not stalking you, I've got better things to do than chase your train wreck. I inhaled, crushed every tremor flat. Since you're determined to do right by her and the baby, let's divorce. I have zero interest in playing cheap stepmom, and even less in playing nice to someone else's kid. Before Adrian answered, Blair barreled out waving the ultrasound printout. Serena, spare us the drama. You're only screaming divorce so Adrian'll come crawling back, right? That single word, pretend, detonated the fuse I'd been biting. Pretend? I stood too fast, black spots burst. Adrian sidestepped, letting me slam onto the linoleum. The 4 ripped free, blood spurting across the floor. Ignoring the red puddle, I pulled the moonstone pendant from my pocket, the one Adrian had turned the city upside down searching for. His face darkened instantly. How do you, don't touch it. I jerked away, voice cracking wide open. This pendant, to you it's probably Blair's romantic keepsake. But to me, it's the trinket I pressed into a brat's hand 10 years ago on a rooftop because he wanted to jump. Emotion detonated, my ulcer answered with fresh claws. Adrian stood stone still, eyes wide, unable to process. Blair gone paper white, reports fluttering around her shoes. I propped myself against the wall, chest hurting worse than my gut. Enough secrets, time to torch them all. I was 17, Dad locked me out for blowing an exam. I climbed to the rooftop to cry and found some kid ready to fly. There were questions I never asked back then, questions that could cut deeper than blades. But the boy is gone. In his place stands the mogul who eats hostile takeovers for breakfast, the golden branch everyone in Riverdale fights to kiss. A few harsh truths won't kill him. I laughed, tears fell first. I couldn't get it. You had money, roof, food, toys, and you wanted to die because mommy and daddy missed recital? My own mother tried to sign a DNR because dad didn't love her anymore. She chose death over me. I pinned his jittery stare. You were ready to check out for lack of parental hugs. Does life have zero value without their applause? I opened my fist, the tiny cracked moonstone lying in my palm. I told you it was my most prized possession and begged you to live. Mom was already ash, keeping the rock wouldn't resurrect her. Saving your whiny but gave it purpose. Half charity, half self-interest. If you'd splattered, cops would have dragged me in for questioning, and I had finals to study for. Adrian's face kept sinking. He knew I wasn't bluffing. No way Blair could regurgitate those minute details. She'd been 14 and busy failing geometry. A token of love? Please. At 14 love meant swapping manga stickers. I eyed Adrian, then stabbed a finger at ghost pale Blair. So, genius, how exactly did she sell you the lie that she was your rooftop savior? Blair's lips trembled. She shot Adrian a rabid glare, then imploded. You lied. You fed me hope, then strung me along. If you truly loved me, why didn't you wait till I got back from grad school? Why marry somebody else? With that she hoisted her skirt and sprinted off, wailing. I twitched. Why is she the injured party here? I turned to Adrian, still frozen mid-hall. Go chase her. Tomorrow we hit City Hall and filed a divorce. You get your white moonlight, I get my freedom, win-win. Adrian didn't move. We stared at each other until he finally exhaled, shoulders sagging. He sat on the plastic bench beside me. The second he leaned and I scooted away. He scooted closer, I stood up altogether. I glared, every alarm blaring. His Adam's apple bobbed. I had no words, he muttered. After more push-pull he spilled the whole story. For years Adrian hunted the girl who'd handed him the moonstone. Then one night in a bar he spotted Blair bussing tables. The beauty mark on her nose, identical to mine. His heart jackhammered, he cornered her. Blair ignored him, until her gaze latched onto the pendant at his throat. That necklace, she'd whispered. Hope nearly suffocated him. But she only shook her head vaguely and walked off, tray in hand. Coincidence, fate, call it whatever sick prank you like. Blair had battled major depressive disorder. Electroshock and meds had scrubbed whole chunks of her memory. Adrian, stubborn as a steel clamp, decided amnesia explained the gaps. She was his rescuer, period. He bankrolled her, showered her with affection, greased her path to an overseas master's. Once accepted, Blair dropped him without a backward glance. In a rage, Adrian married me, only for life to U-turn and dump him at the exact destination he'd chased for a decade. Too bad he didn't know it then, and I didn't either. The person he'd searched for all those years had been right beside him the whole time. After I heard the whole story, I stared at the 4-needle in the back of my hand and felt everything was so absurd it was almost funny. But I'm 4 years older than you. Blair had trashed me online plenty, calling me a shameless, desperate older woman who wouldn't let go. He sounded a little flustered. We only met once, on the rooftop back then. How would I know how old you were? You were a whole head shorter than me. True. I'd gone hungry a lot as a kid, malnourished, scrawny and small. But I wasn't naive enough to think that clearing up the misunderstanding about the moonstone pendant would make him swing from loving Blair to loving me overnight. He loved his white moon so much he was willing to raise another man's baby growing in her womb. Fine, go raise it. I tilted my head and looked at him seriously. It felt like ages since I'd studied him this closely. His brows and eyes were still beautiful, the mole on his Adam's apple the very spot I used to love kissing. Only, old get to look again. And I didn't want to. Finished? I lowered my eyes. Whether we're done talking or not, we're still going to City Hall tomorrow. I've thought it through, no point wasting my whole life on someone whose heart belongs to someone else. I'm not divorcing. Adrian suddenly grabbed my hand. His palm was sweaty, I instinctively tried to pull away. He acted as if he couldn't feel my resistance, enunciating every word. Serena, I'm not letting you go. Don't forget the prenup. His Adam's apple bobbed. If you insist on a divorce, I'll take back everything, and every dollar your father has sunk into Caldwell stock. Oh, great, he was using money to threaten me. He knew perfectly well, I could walk away from him, but not from the money. Before I could answer, he let go and strode off. I tugged one corner of my mouth. What's the point of more talk? Even if the misunderstanding's cleared, so what? He'll run straight back to Blair. After the 4 drip I felt drowsy and decided to crash at a nearby hotel for the night. I'd barely stepped out of the hospital when a black town car screeched in front of me. The rear door swung open, my father's face was thunder. I lifted a shoulder. Another lecture coming. Adrian already told me. He started, voice blazing. Serena, where do you get the guts to ask him for a divorce? Veins throbbed at his temples. Do you have any idea how much I paid to make this marriage happen? I gave a thin laugh. Paid? You should tally up how much you've gained by selling me off. News that Adrian wanted a bride had been all over Riverdale's finance circles. Dad simply shamelessly shoved my profile at Caldwell the moment he caught wind. At the time Adrian, furious with Blair, dragged me straight to City Hall and married me. Dad dragged hard on his cigarette several times before swallowing his rage. He pulled a black titanium card from his pocket and flung it at me. There's 10 million in here. Play nice with Adrian and it's all yours. Trade a loveless marriage for cash? In the past I'd have snatched it without blinking. But now I refuse to cram myself back into the farce so they can all keep bullying me. I thought you might at least offer some company shares. Serena, don't push your luck. Dad barked me off. I smiled, totally unsurprised. He's always looked out for himself first, every path paved for his own feet. No way he'd let me near his core assets. As long as I stay Caldwell, he rakes in money, and doors open just because he's Adrian's father-in-law. In his ledger, 10 million is win-win. Every old injustice flooded back at once. I slapped his hand away. You think everyone worships money the way you do? You killed Mom. You said if you paid her hospital bills your precious project would collapse. The doctors said she could be cured, but she died, and you soared. I stared at his tailored suit and felt only disgust. Even a pig can fly in a high wind. Your fortune is built on Mom's grave, and now you want to keep sucking my blood the rest of my life? My voice was hoarse, the cold wind stung my cheeks. Ungrateful wretch. Trembling with rage, Dad swung and slapped me. Stop the act. If you didn't love money, you never would have married Adrian. Wake up, you two never had feelings. Cash in hand is the only truth. 15 years ago, same speech. Now, same tune. The more he gains, the colder his blood. I crouched slowly, fingertips brushing the bank card, when his shoe slammed down on it. The spot where the 4-needle had bruised me turned purple under his grinding heel. Pain shot up my arm and I hissed. A smug grin curled his mouth, voice dripping contempt. Serena, I made you. I know exactly what you are. I yanked my hand free with force hard enough to snap the card in two. I think that was the first time I ever defied money itself, and a wild, fierce joy surged through me. I stared straight into his bloodshot eyes. I'm your daughter, but my life isn't yours to direct. Livid, Dad barked at the bodyguards behind him. Grab her. 2 men stepped forward, pinning my arms. He bent close. Want a divorce? Dream on. Your mother was seriously mentally ill, think insanity skipped you? Keep this up and you'll leave with nothing. I've already lined up a psychiatrist, locking you in a psych ward for life is easy. He bared his teeth in a grin. I stared at him in disbelief. This is my own father. He watched his wife die to save money. He's willing to lock his daughter away. Cramps knotted my stomach. I bit my lip and let them drag me toward the car. I had no strength left to fight. Just then blinding headlights hit my face. Adrian stepped out, silhouette edged in cold white light, voice icy. Father-in-law, that's my wife. Mind if I take her home? I leaned against the seat wrapped in his coat, but I was still freezing. I stubbornly turned my head. I won't thank you. If he hadn't blabbed to Dad, the man wouldn't have ambushed me so soon, though I'd always known the day would come. The moment I thought of divorce, Dad would fight me tooth and nail. Adrian's voice was lower than usual, his grip tightening. I told him because I don't want to lose you. I stayed mute, head against the window, thoughts a mess. Hadn't he gone to Blair? Why was he back so fast? All my questions were answered the instant I pushed open our front door. Blair was inside, crying when I walked in. I couldn't get it. If I was willing to step aside, what did she have to cry about? I say what I mean. Blair, if you want Adrian to raise your child, fine, but he deserves to know who the father is, don't you think? She reacted as if scalded, sweeping a teacup off the table. Why do you keep ripping my scars open? She shrieked, voice shaking. Fine, I'll tell you. I was assaulted overseas. Happy now? I looked at her hysterics and felt only pity for the fortune I'd paid for that cup at auction. I held her frantic gaze. You're going to love a child fathered by a rapist? Or do you just need a leash to keep Adrian tied to you forever? My words made her freeze for a second. A child can be emotional sustenance, I get that. But a baby with an unknown father, one you have to lie about? That brand of motherhood seems awfully cheap. I sighed softly. All my fault. Before I fell for Adrian, whoever he liked was none of my business. But once I started caring, I couldn't help digging to see what the woman he'd obsessed over for years was really like. The internet keeps few secrets. I unearthed Blair's private account, only a handful of followers, chronicling her years abroad. She'd had a boyfriend over there. I unlocked my phone, typed the handle I'd memorized, and tossed the screen to Adrian before stepping up to Blair. Really in love? So in love you got yourself a new boyfriend within a month of landing overseas? You thought he was rich, turned out even his name was fake. My tone stayed flat, each word a dart. Adrian had once been loud about loving her, so loud that the very night we got our marriage license, he still wired her a cool $1 million. My gaze flicked to her flat belly. The baby you're carrying belongs to that boyfriend, doesn't it? Pretty ruthless, you invent a rape story just to milk sympathy. I gave a soft laugh. Then again, you always think you have an escape hatch. Even after Adrian married me, you still felt untouchable, right? I'd never planned to tell Adrian any of this, it was between him and Blair. But Blair kept pushing, lies can't hide forever. Adrian wanted everything, keep me as his wife and keep Blair on the side. I looked at him, he was calmer than I'd expected. I spoke lightly. You think Blair's different, interested only in your love, but hearts aren't that pure. You love her, so even if she never asks, you'll hand her money and resources on a platter. Adrian's eyes stayed down, fists clenching and unclenching. Blair finally screamed, Serena, enough. Every single one of you is lying to me. Adrian let me believe that I saved him back then, that's why he fell in love with me. He only married you to spite me. Couldn't you just stay a contract couple? Why force me? Adrian handed me his phone. He drew a slow breath, and when he looked at Blair his voice was nothing but distant. Blair, I came to pick you up today so we could talk, not so you could make a scene. I'm not giving you another cent. If you hadn't blown through that 10 million, it would have lasted you a lifetime. Blair's sobs stopped dead, she stared at him in a daze. His tone stayed icy. As of today, we're completely done. 7-inch like hell. A sharp crack, Blair swept every crystal tumbler off the coffee table. My temples throbbed. Those glasses were one-of-a-kind treasures I'd had flown in from an overseas auction. Before I could explode she crouched, snatched a jagged shard, and pressed it to her belly. Adrian, if you cut me off, I'll ram this into my stomach right now and kill your baby. You'll never forgive yourself. The upside-down blackmail made me laugh out loud. You bawled in the hospital swearing you'd give birth even if Adrian disappeared, so you'd still have a piece of him. Blair, is your motherhood that cheap? The kid's just a bargaining chip? Adrian went arctic. Blair, get this straight, that baby isn't mine. Seeing the finality in his eyes, Blair collapsed into loud, ugly tears. Fine, you don't care if it lives or dies, but what about me? What am I to you? She pressed the glass against her throat, blood beaded instantly. Adrian, being discarded by you is worse than death. She gritted her teeth and pushed the shard deeper. Crimson streaked her neck, but Adrian only frowned, boredom in his eyes. Blair's hand shook, the shard finally hit the rug. I sneered. If she were really suicidal, she wouldn't recite the script for an audience. When her tears ran dry, she grabbed the fruit knife from the table and flew at me screaming. Serena, this is all your fault. You ruined the life I was supposed to have. I'd run out of patience. I sidestepped, wrenched her wrist, and twisted the knife free. Who are you trying to scare, Blair? Nobody here's signing up for your cheap melodrama. Adrian stepped in, pulling me behind him. Blair, you never finished treatment for your old diagnosis. His voice dropped. Your doctor called me last week. After you stopped your meds your mood's cratered. I didn't want to believe it, but this hysteria proves it. The last trace of pity vanished from his eyes. I was wrong. I mistook your obsession for devotion and ended up hurting the person I care about most. If you can't get a grip, I'll have the clinic pick you up tonight, finish the program. No. I'm not sick. I'm perfectly fine. Blair stumbled backward, crumpling onto the sofa, tears swimming in her defiant eyes. How can you just stop loving me? I don't believe it. Adrian shook his head gently. When his gaze slid past her and landed on me, something soft surfaced, something I couldn't read. I thought I felt nothing for Serena, but when I saw you again I was numb. That's when I knew, I stopped loving you long ago. You showed up only so I could see clearly, Serena's the one I love. I was willing to pay you, even raise the child, because I thought you owned the moonstone pendant and had saved my life. Now that the truth's out, every dime I spent on you is meaningless." He paused, his voice gentler. "Serena likes money, openly. Since I have it, why not give it to her? But you, what makes you think I owe you a lifetime?" Blair covered her face, lurched up, and staggered toward the door. At the foyer she screamed over her shoulder. "Adrian, I curse you. Neither of you will ever be happy. A selfish man like you doesn't deserve love." Silence swallowed the room. After Adrian's speech my throat felt tight. Not touched, just absurd. First he played devoted husband in front of me, mooning over his so-called white moon. Now he was performing lovesick husband in front of her, claiming he adored me. Why bother? He grabbed my hand, eyes glassy like some stray puppies. "Serena, I swear on everything, every word I just said is true." I nodded. "Okay. I believe you. Now what?" I watched his face freeze, and every injustice I'd swallowed for hundreds of nights came roaring up. "If you actually loved me, you wouldn't have spent my birthday night parked outside Blair's empty old apartment, nursing a bottle. You'd remember I'm allergic to shellfish instead of having the chef cook at every meal. And you sure as hell wouldn't have tried to hop a plane to her because she texted on our anniversary." My fists clenched so hard I didn't let the tears fall. "I saved you with zero ulterior motives, but I didn't sign up to be your punching bag." I was exhausted. These years I hadn't lived for myself at all. If it was only ever about money, life would be way too empty. My father threatened to disown me if I divorced you. You threatened to leave me penniless. Do you both think I'll starve without you? I'm an adult with 2 hands and 2 feet. I inhaled, forcing down the sting in my eyes. "I loved you, but the wounds you gave me are real. Love doesn't magically erase pain, impossible." I yanked free, grabbed my bag, and slammed the door behind me. In one go I blocked Adrian and my father. I hailed a cab for 30 kilometers back to my secret hideout. Dad had handed me $5 million to marry Adrian. I'd used it to buy a condo. At dawn I called the divorce lawyer. "Relax, Serena, with me on it, this divorce is happening." We set a meeting, and the weight in my chest finally eased. For days I cut off the world and sketched nonstop. I learned from the TV news, Blair was dead, body found by the river. I took a calm sip of lukewarm water. We come into this world with nothing, we leave with nothing. Once you're gone, you're just gone. That afternoon Adrian showed up at my door. Of course he'd tracked the address. I met his eyes first. "If you're here because of Blair, don't bother." He was silent a full half-minute before his hoarse voice cracked. "Serena, I agree to the divorce." I was the one left speechless. The lawyer said the process still needed 2 weeks, yet here he was. Adrian pulled out the signed settlement. "One condition, give me the moonstone pendant. In exchange, I'll transfer the villa downtown into your name. Only a fool turns down free money." I skimmed the papers, signed on the spot, and tossed him the necklace. "Have your attorney contact mine about the deed." Before he could answer I shut the door in his face. When his footsteps finally faded I slumped on the sofa, everything feeling surreal. After a while I burst out laughing. A rotten marriage traded for a $5 million house? Not a bad deal. I pressed a hand to my hollow chest and whispered, "Mom, this is the best gift you ever gave me." Once the divorce decree came through I sold the villa immediately. The buyer, a flush industrial tycoon, closed in a week. The day the wire hit, I already had a plan. While with Adrian I'd quietly studied investing. He had a killer eye, piling into stable, high-dividend stocks. Copying him never failed. Money really does beget money. In 3 months my brokerage account was up double digits. I booked a ticket to Scandinavia. If everything can pass, so can I. Time for a fresh backdrop. The night before departure Dad pounded on my door like a madman. I didn't open, he shouted through it. "Serena, I'm begging you. Adrian pulled every investment, my company's cash flow is dead, I'm ruined. I know you sold the villa, lend me some, I'll pay it all back with interest." I twirled a lock of hair, unfazed. "No cash." He slammed harder. "You animal. Your mother died because of you, and now you abandon your own father, no conscience." I dialed 911 on my phone. "I'm conscience-free, and I'm having you arrested." Within 5 minutes the cops arrived. I watched from the window as they cuffed him, still cursing. No guilt, just pure relief. As the plane lifted off I exhaled long and slow. All the filth of the past will fade with time. My life is still long. Living it for me alone, that's real freedom. Thanks for listening to today's story. If you liked it, hit like and share with friends. Drop your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more gripping tales. See you next time.